Pixel 6 Pro battery test is here, where it's going up against its biggest competitors in the iPhone 13 Pro Max and Samsung's Galaxy S21 Ultra. Taking a look at the spec sheet, for the first time, the Pixel is powered by Google's own Tensor SoC. The iPhone's rocking Apple's A15 Bionic chip, while the S21 Ultra variant that we have is using Qualcomm's Snapdragon 888. In terms of battery capacity, the Android phones have the big advantage here with 5,000 mAh capacities compared to the iPhone's smaller 4,352 mAh. However, the iPhone does have a slightly lower native resolution, which in theory should help it out a bit. But at the end of the day, specs are just specs. That's why we run these tests, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, we'll kick things off in the phone test, where each device is going on the same 1-hour phone call, where 60 minutes into it, the iPhone does the best, dropping by only 1% compared to the 3-point drop on the Pixel and a pretty big 5-point drop on the Galaxy. Here in the messaging test, the phones are texting back and forth with our automated chatbots, where after 1 hour of doing so, this time the Galaxy does the best, somewhat making up for that last test with it tying the Pixel at 89, although the iPhone still remains ahead of the pack at 92. In this email test, we're not doing anything too intensive, we're just opening and scrolling through the same set of emails, where the biggest factor here is the display itself, and 1 hour later, the iPhone seems to be the most efficient, with it dropping by just 5 points compared to the 6-point drop on the Galaxy and a somewhat unimpressive 8-point drop on the Pixel. We'll see if the Pixel can turn things around here in the browser test, where this time the display isn't the only major factor, with the processors under the hood also being put to work as we cycle through the same set of websites, but 1 hour later, that Tensor SoC didn't seem to make the Pixel any more efficient, with it matching the Galaxy's 12-point drop, while the iPhone just sipped on power, dropping by only 7 points. So heading into this Instagram test, the iPhone has created some real separation between it and the two Android phones. And after an hour of scrolling through the home feed, that gap only grows, with the iPhone only dropping by 5 points, while the Galaxy drops by 7, and the Pixel once again is the least efficient of the bunch, dropping by 8 points. But there's still plenty of time to go in this battery test, starting off with this 16-hour standby, where historically Pixel phones have done pretty well, and in the case of the Pixel 6 Pro, it's the same story. It did well, but just not any better than the Galaxy, so it remains 3 points behind it, while the iPhone is able to add another point to its lead. Let's see what happens here in the YouTube test, where in addition to all 3 displays being calibrated to the same brightness level, we've also calibrated the speakers on each phone to keep things as controlled as possible, where 1 hour later, the same trend continues. The iPhone does the best, dropping by just 8 points, the Galaxy comes in second, dropping by 10 points, while the Pixel does the worst of the 3, dropping by 11 points. So not the best results from the Pixel thus far. While it hasn't fallen too far behind the Galaxy, compared to the iPhone, it's night and day. And after an hour of gaming, oh man, the Pixel drops by a whopping 20%, while the iPhone doing the same exact task only drops by 9%, with the Galaxy kind of splitting the difference with a 15-point drop. Meaning at this point, the Pixel has fallen way behind even the Galaxy S21 Ultra, with it 9 points behind at the start of this maps test and 11 points behind by the end of it. But of course, compared to the iPhone, both Android phones fall short, with the iPhone starting the Spotify test 18 points ahead of the Galaxy and an almost unbelievable 29 points ahead of the Pixel. And unfortunately, that 12% that the Pixel started with runs out after just 48 minutes into Spotify, at which point the iPhone is still at a healthy 33%, while the Galaxy is not as impressively ahead, but it still has 13% left to go. So really a surprisingly bad performance from the Pixel, given that this phone has a 5,000 mAh battery. For some context, that 33% on the iPhone would actually be enough to last it an additional 4 hours and 42 minutes of web browsing, while the 13% on the Galaxy would last it for 1 hour and 5 minutes of web browsing. So just a huge difference between these phones. Now, for those of you wondering wondering, the Galaxy did go on to finish Spotify and last 28 minutes into that intensive camera/Snapchat test, while the iPhone not only finished all 60 minutes in Snap, but it continued on and on for 2 hours and 6 minutes in our intensive app cycle test, bringing the iPhone's total time to that record-breaking 28 hours and 6 minutes, while the Galaxy lasted a respectable 25 hours and 28 minutes, and the Pixel was only able to go for 24 hours and 48 minutes, which isn't the worst performance in the world, but it definitely falls well short of the expectations